The mayor of DC, Mayor Muriel Bowser, is being sued, child. Yes, honey, she is being sued. She's actually being sued by the head of the DC chapter of the Warriors for Christ. Now, you would think these are goodly Christian people. You know, sometimes
want to publicly say what is their spiritual orientation.
Hi guys, how you doing? You already know it's your girl Chanel Felix, the marketing guru, and it's Monday, so of course I'm gonna come in and hit you guys with some Monday motivation. Now this week we're gonna start off by taking a look at some of the stuff that's going on in the world today, and child, listen. It's a lot. You would think someone spiked my coffee because this morning's info, it's lit. What's going on in the world right now, it's a lot, but we're about to get into it. So one of the things that my mentor always says to me is that if you can't measure it, then you can't manage it. So yeah, we're talking about the Black Lives Matter protest that has been happening, and we are into week 3 of protesting. Yes, week 3. It has been going on for a long time, honey, and we are not giving up. We are seeing a lot of different countries participating, a lot of different cities. We even had another protest here in Amsterdam again on Wednesday, so it's ongoing. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is how do we measure the success of the Black Lives Matter protests? How do we know when it's time to stop protesting? And after the protest, what are the differences that we can expect to see? To try our best to quantify how successful the Black Lives Matter protest has been, so I have been compiling a list of things that has happened since the protests have started, so that we can kind of indicate whether or not it is making sense or if it's bringing about any positive change. One of the things that we have seen so far is that the officers that were involved in George Floyd's murder were arrested. We have heard huge conversations taking place about police reform and the total revamping of the justice system. There were even people who suggested totally defunding the police, or actually recreating the system of policing that currently exists. One of the suggestions that I heard personally was that the police department should be broken down, where officers are trained in special departments. For instance, you actually use traffic officers when it comes to road or traffic offenses, having police officers that specialize in domestic violence, having officers that are just extremely specialized in particular areas, instead of having officers come off of 6 months training and having to deal with a number of different social issues that they clearly were not properly trained to deal with. Another thing is that we saw a lot of statues coming down, especially in the UK. We saw a lot of pulling down of statues of former slave owners and slave traders. What we also have seen throughout the past 3 weeks is a lot of companies, especially the NFL, who we know had this former conflict with Colin Kaepernick, would have came out and made a statement actually apologizing to black people for, you know, just overlooking them, and apologizing in terms of bringing awareness to police brutality against blacks in the US. Another thing that we would have seen as well in terms of trying to measure the success of the Black Lives Matter movement, for me personally, one that really stood out was the fact that we could see so many different countries participating in these protests. We saw Paris, we saw the Netherlands, we saw the UK, we saw Italy, we saw Australia, you name it. Even in my home country, Trinidad and Tobago, I saw that there was a Black Lives Matter protest. So it means therefore that this thing has gone, it is going, and it truly reached the four corners of the earth. So listen, our voice is being heard and the message is being sent. All right, so I just want to encourage all of you guys out there still protesting to keep protesting, and you guys who are using your online platforms to advocate for this change, continue to do so. Let's continue to spread the word. And come on guys, Black Lives Matter. It shouldn't just matter now, but we should continue this conversation and ensure that we see that positive change that we want to see. Yes, and in other news, the mayor of DC, Mayor Muriel Bowser, is being sued, child. Yes, honey, she is being sued. She's actually being sued by the head of the DC chapter of the Warriors for Christ. Now, you would think these are goodly Christian people. You know, sometimes these are the things that make people not want to publicly say what is their spiritual orientation when people do stuff like this in the name of Christ. But let me read on in the article and let you know exactly why they have decided to sue her. So they're saying that the Black Lives Matter is a cult, which is a denominational sect of the religion of secular humanitarianism. And what the mayor is doing favors the favored religion of the city and the nation, and that another who disagrees with their gospel narrative is a second-class citizen, it alleges. They also claim that it violates the Establishment Clause, which forbids the government from establishing an official religion or from passing laws that favor one religion over another. The lawsuit alleges that the Black Lives Matter movement is a religious one, and as its hosts public ritualistic atonement ceremonies and incantations, and has its own religious symbol. Separately, whatever, child, listen. Are we really gonna do this? Are we really gonna do this? For you guys who don't know, the mayor of DC, she would have renamed 16th Street, which is the street that's directly in front of the White House. She renamed it to Black Lives Matter Plaza and painted the streets yellow, that big sign that says Black Lives Matter. And this religious group is now coming out to say that, listen, this Black Lives Matter movement is a religious group and it's being favored by the government, and governments are not supposed to favor one religious group over another. And by supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, which this religious group call the DC Warriors for Christ, child. Yeah, they're saying that the Black Lives Matter cult is being favored by the government, and basically what she did was funded their movement by painting the girl Black Lives Matter. But can we really give these people our energy? Because I feel drained. My energy feels drained. I feel drained by it, okay? It's sucking the life out of me. I have more interesting things to talk about, okay? So next on the agenda, so as I was talking about before, we have seen a lot of statues come down this week, particularly, especially in the UK. We have seen statues of past slave traders and slave owners pulled down in the UK, and I'm just so happy to see that. I'm really happy to see that. For me, it says this is a revolution. This is a real revolution, and it has been so impactful that the Black Lives Matter movement has even been compared to the Stonewall riots in 1969, and that's extremely huge in terms of societal progress. But you would think that it would go down really easy, right? We would just go pull down some statues and that would be the end of it, child. No, listen, these white supremacists in the UK were not having it. A group of anti-Black Lives Matter protesters came out in London to protect the statues of these great slave traders and war men of the UK. So you would see that there was a huge racist clash in the Black Lives Matter movement over this weekend in London, child. And I saw some videos of these guys.
No violence, just to protest about the way our statues are being desecrated or also defaced, and because the police have done nothing about it, we've come here because they won't look after them, and that's basically it.
And the movement, and let's not give them too much energy, all right? We have to save our energy for the week. And next, listen, so I don't know if you guys heard, I don't know if you've seen, but there was another police shooting in the US. Another one. So yeah, I mean, it's not even funny, but another US shooting that took place in the parking lot of a Wendy's in Georgia, and it sparked protest again, of course, and it ended in Wendy's being actually burned down, and there's footage of a white woman who protesters alleged was the person who started the fire. And when there's videos and pictures, so we could see her actually doing it. It's like this. It leads me to question how impactful or powerful really is the Black Lives Matter movement and marching and protesting and looting if they're still gonna turn around and shoot us. Anyway, how we gonna deal with that? All right, y'all. Next. So guys, so it is week number 3 in June, and I know for some of you guys, you feel like you have run out of gas. I know the feeling of feeling like, oh my gosh, can the month just be over already? Can it just be July already? I feel that same way because I literally want to hop on a plane, right? And we see that a lot of airports has begun to release their date of reopening. So we see that the world is like slowly but surely trying to reopen and get back to some sort of normalcy, or the new normal as we call it. To be honest, guys, my motivation for this week, I have a lot to do this week. I think you guys need to motivate me as well this week, right? Because I need some extra motivation. But my motivation for this week is just keeping in mind the end goal. Just keeping the end goal in mind, and just understanding that every element of what we do each day, whether it be one thing or 2 things or 1 hour or the entire day, it all adds up to attribute to whatever it is that we want to accomplish and where we want to see ourselves going. So I mean, just like an athlete, if you want to get to the big leagues, you have to train, you have to practice. So you have to make that time by any means necessary to actually work on your gift, or just work on establishing your business, laying firm foundations, and to get to the place that you want to be. And just remember that anything built on a shaky foundation cannot last. So in order to build a sustainable business or a sustainable brand or a sustainable life, you have to build that on a sturdy foundation, meaning a steady spiritual base. Health-wise, you know, just getting that exercise in, thinking the right thoughts, and feeding your mind the appropriate content. So I hope you guys have a great week, and see you again soon.